So welcome everybody. This is the Microsoft 365 and Power Platform, a weekly community call happening every single Tuesday, 8 a.m. Pacific time. Today is March 5th. My name is Vesa Juvonen. I'm a principal product manager in the Microsoft 365 platform and community area. So working close with our Power Platform. English is so hard. Working closely with our Power Platform friends among the planning of these calls and the community efforts and all of that. Now, today, we have a typical set of recapping all of the different assets which are available. We do acknowledge that some of you might be saying, oh, once again, you're showing the same slides, but that is intentional. There's always new people within this course, and we've got that feedback explicitly that it's a great thing that we're capturing that for new people as well, because we need to help the new people to stay up to date on all of the assets and what's available for them to get started within the Microsoft 365 or Power Platform. And then after that typical intro start, we will go to the actual starts of the day. We'll start with Garry, Trinder, and Waldek Mastykarz on extending Copilot for Microsoft 365 Teams Toolkit connector sample. So they will show how to build your connectors with Microsoft Teams Toolkit for Copilot for Microsoft 365. You'll get all of the details over there. Then Akanksha Rakesh is kind of talking about billing experience with SharePoint Embedded. So we've been going through the series of SharePoint Embedded demos within this course, and now we're moving into that billing experience and what is the cost structure, how do you estimate that, all of that, how do you pay for SharePoint Embedded, and that's an important topic to also go through. And then last but not the least, definitely is Gilliam, who's kind of talking about building your custom Copilot on Microsoft Teams with Teams AI library. So super cool topic as well, understanding how you can take advantage of the natural language processing in the customer intent using the Teams AI library. So your bots or the implementation, your Copilot implementation can figure out more about the intent of the person. So you don't have to do that really specific if clause. And if the person says something, no. You can actually build your bots in a way that if the intent is something, and that's a bit of a different meaning than what is the if clause explicitly defining. Carter is going to go through all of that within his demo. Now, before we go there, let's recap those slides and assets which we have available for you to get started as part of the community and as part of building experiences within the Microsoft Cloud on this side. So first of all, we have our Microsoft 365 and Power Platform community video channel. You want to subscribe there. Every single day, we are releasing at least one new video across makers, builders, developers, and experiences in Microsoft 365 for Power Platform. All of the community call demos, community call recordings are getting published over there as well. We have our LinkedIn group for discussions and updates. We actually do have a LinkedIn page which you can follow up on as well. We're going to update the slides on that one a bit later. We have a lot of open source assets available in multiple different GitHub repositories, but as it might be a bit difficult to find the relevant sample for you, we have this really easily approachable sample galleries, and they're really there to help you. So you can imagine that if you have a sample GitHub repos across to GitHub, it's really hard to find the relevant Teams toolkit sample or whatever you're looking for Copilot extensibility. What if you would have a centralized location where you will go and just use the text box and define, I want to search about this kind of a sample, and voila, poof, from hundreds and hundreds of samples, it will show you the relevant ones. That's what these are all about. And we have our centralized AKMS address where you can find all of the links and all of the addresses at AKMS Community Home. Just today, I saw a new design work, what Stefan Bauer is doing on that site. That will look amazing as we get the new website out on that URL aligned with the new branding and cool stuff. Now, we do have a lot of community calls. You probably know about those community calls because you are in a community call. So this is the Tuesday one happening every single Tuesday, 8 a.m. Pacific time with Microsoft presenters. So the presenters are typically product managers, engineers, cloud advocates, or vendors who are working together with Microsoft, closely building this experience for you. On top of that, we have the Power Platform monthly community call, Office Add-ins monthly community call, and then our 7 a.m. Pacific series, either Microsoft 365 Power Platform community call or the Viva Connection SharePoint Framework community call, 7 a.m. every single Thursday, either one of those calls. Now, word of a warning, actually, now that I'm remembering that one, starting next week, we are in this weird sequence of 3 weeks where the time zones are messing up some of our calendars. So US moves to summertime on next Sunday. Europe follows on summertime 3 weeks later. And that means that some of the calls will be shuffled. So do check your calendar. If you download the recurrent invite, get that one included in your Outlook. Your Outlook is showing you the right time zone and the right time when the meeting is happening. But it will be a bit painful 3 weeks because some of the calls are shuffling up and down within the calendar. So please double check the timing by downloading the recurrent invites. Do not just copy the call directly from there. It is a weird moment of a time, again, those 3 weeks. It's a horrible time when this happens, when the US moves first and Euro follows on the summertime. Same, by the way, happens in autumn, because of course we're not moving at the same weekend. That would be crazy. Now, you can download all of the recurrent invites at AKMS community calls, and all of the agendas are always getting published at the meetup URL. Now, for a lot of those calls, we want to have community presenters and community demos. So please sign up at AKMS Community Request Demo. This doesn't have to be rocket science. We're really looking into on getting started storylines. So if you find a new feature or you build something cool with out-of-the-box features, it doesn't have to be always about to deep dive code in 500 levels. No. Actually, the more we all the time need more and more getting started materials. Of course, we can have storytelling on other areas as well, but don't feel threatened if you don't have the 400, 500 level deep dive code sample which you want to go. No, that's not necessarily what we need in here. But please sign up. We help you get you scheduled, and we can help you even on reviewing your sessions, reviewing your materials, and all of that. So fill in AKMS Community Request Demo. Now, we do have a lot of assets to get started on Microsoft Cloud, so Microsoft 365 Developer Program, which has now a bit of a challenge right now. It's technically in pause, so there's some details available in the developer blog. If you have a Visual Studio subscription, or you are a partner or a vendor, there's alternative options to get started by getting you the tenant. One option always is that you are signing up for a trial, so you get a tenant at least for a while, and then you will need to get a new tenant when that expires. It's not an optimal situation. We acknowledge that, and there's work to be done on getting that sorted out. I do not, unfortunately, have an ETA on that one. It would be awesome that if we would have an ETA, but to be honest, I don't know the details, but hopefully we'll have more updates on that one soon. A lot of material also in Microsoft Learn. We also have a lot of material available, a lot of shows available for you to follow if you're interested in following up with the latest or interviews and discussions about what's happening within the Microsoft 365 Power Platform. We have the Microsoft 365 PMP Weekly. We have Caruana and Heather doing their bi-weekly show at Mondays and Microsoft, and I'm still hearing rumors on Microsoft 365 Developer Podcast coming back. So that should be really, really interesting as well. I did mention already the samples. We are at 1,880 plus samples at the Microsoft 365 Power Platform sample gallery, and we're all the time surfacing all the latest samples from Microsoft and from the community from this one centralized location, making it super easy for you to find the relevant sample. We get more and more engineering organizations and product group organizations involved in this, which is awesome. So it's truly a one location rather than trying to find the relevant sample for you from the thousands of repos which we have in a GitHub. That's not optimal. Now, as you then find a sample, you might be wondering, okay, what now? How do I get the sample? How do I start using that? What do I do now? And that's why we have the Sharing is Caring initiative, which is coming back from the pause, right, Hugo?
Absolutely. We're really looking forward to see what people have to contribute. And we understand that it can be scary to get started, right? You might have an idea that you want to share with us, or you might have just a minor update you want to do on an existing sample, or maybe you want to present on a community call and you just don't know how to get started. Maybe you're afraid that people are going to make fun of you or it's not your place. Well, that's what Sharing is Caring is about. Sharing is Caring is about really creating small groups where we have sessions that are never recorded. It's a safe space. You can ask any questions. And at the end of our Sharing is Caring sessions, you'll actually have done the contribution that we're talking about. So for example, you'll have done your first pull request, and it's going to be a valid contribution. We are in the process of actually setting up a whole new tenant to be able to host Sharing is Caring sessions more frequently and live meetings and do cool things like that. So keep up to date on the site at ak.ms/sharing is caring. And once you have done your first contribution, whether it's through Sharing is Caring or not, if it's a recognized contribution, we will actually issue you a badge through Credly. Credly, those are the same people that used to show you your Microsoft certification. So we'll actually give you a contributor badge and various contribution badges, depending on what you've done. And all you need to do is to go to akms/community/recognition, give us your email address and your GitHub handle so we can link the two, and we'll automatically issue you a badge for recognized contributions. Back to you, Vesa.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you, Canada, Finland taking over. So quick recap on all of the cool events which are happening. So April 13th, May 1st and May 2nd, we have the Microsoft 365 Community Conference happening at Orlando. Great opportunity to stay up to date on what's happening with Microsoft 365 Copilot, AI models, Microsoft Teams, Microsoft Viva, SharePoint, and so much more. A lot of our biggest leaders are coming there. Should be a great show, definitely. And there are some pre-conference workshops for 2 days and post-conference workshops. So a great opportunity to stay up to date on what's happening there. We also have our European Collaboration Summit coming up on the European side. So if you are in this side of the pond, because I'm in Helsinki, Finland, we have the European Collaboration Summit happening 14th to 16th of May at Wiesbaden, Germany. That's in Frankfurt. Apparently, Wiesbaden is closer to Frankfurt Airport than the Frankfurt town. So it is really close to the Frankfurt as well. So don't feel fooled about what is Wiesbaden again. No, it's right next to Frankfurt. We also have the TechCon 365 happening this year at Seattle. In June is the first one, then DC and Dallas followed later on this year. And then there's, of course, the Power Platform Conference happening in Las Vegas in September 18th to 2024. Should be a really, really great show again in MGM. Great picture, by the way, behind of Charles Lamanna from the big stage from last year. Now, on top of this, we have a lot of community events happening all around the world. So you can go to the communitydays.org and see all of the different events which are happening. Some of these are free, some of them might have a small cost, some of them might be hybrid based on the model what the organizers have chosen to use. But a lot of opportunities to meet other people who are part of the community and stay up to date on what's happening and how to build stuff or use stuff within the Microsoft 365 and Power Platform efficiently. Now, this week's news, not a massive amount of news from Microsoft. I will actually copy these. I will not go them through one by one, but just as a reference point, we'll put it in the chat right about now, and then we'll move the group photo all together with us. But please check out all of the greatest news from Microsoft as well. And then it's time for the group photo before we go to the actual stars of the day and right on schedule. This is really good. So give me 1 second. I'm starting recording Camtasia. You can enable your video, and that will mean that you will be in the big screen. There we go. We have 50 seats in the room. We're not super pixelated in today. Todd can be the example in second row. Come on, Todd. There we go. Yeah, that's good. That's good. We're not yet recording. We are starting in a second. A bit pixelated today. Always depends on a day how good that is. That's a nice wave again on the middle. We should really try to do that wave at some point in here. I can see Mark on the front row, also in the third row, a lot of familiar faces there. And Hugo is already doing waves. Good. It's pixelated, but it's okay. No can do. It is what it is. I will put the recording on 1, 2, 3, 4, and let's do some hand waving. So let's wait for the other people in the community. Awesome to see those smiling faces, and everybody is enjoying. Really, really cool. And hopefully we'll see some of you in those upcoming conferences. And if you're an MVP, we have the MVP Summit happening next week. Excellent. A bit pixelated today, but we can still see the smiles. That's the important piece. Thank you for that. We'll share that in the social media for sure. But then it's time to go to the actual stars of the day. English is so hard. We'll start with Garry and Waldek, and then we move from there to Akanksha about the SharePoint Embedded, and then Carter is the last one. And I can see Waldek sharing. And Waldek, we are all good. Take it away.
Perfect. Can you also hear me? That is also
yes, I can also hear
perfect.
You. All good.
Brilliant. Hey, everybody. This time we'll talk about how can you simplify deploying graph connectors with Teams apps. So in the past, we talked about what connectors are, right? Basically, TLDR, to keep it really short, they're a way for you to bring external content from your apps that you use at work to Microsoft 365 so that you can use it in experiences such as search, context IQ, but also more and more relevant to everybody every day, Copilot, right? So they are a way for you to enrich and bring that info from external apps to Microsoft 365 where everyone is. When you think about what a connector is, a quick recap of something that we've talked about in the past too, right? In essence, it's a connector code. So it's basically a piece of code that runs somewhere. It's connected to the source where the content that you want to bring to Microsoft 365 is, whether that's a database, API, local files, whatever, you name it. You write the code, so you connect the code to whatever data repository you've got. 2, at some point, that code will reach out to Microsoft 365, so it doesn't run, and obviously it needs to authenticate. So it also has an Entra app reg. So that's the point number 2 on the slide. And then 3, the final step is that the connector code that you write connects to through the Microsoft Graph to Microsoft 365 and creates a connection, which is a place where it ingests the content that it imports and then also ingests into that the content that it brings from the external source. So that is really a graph connector in essence. It has these 4 different blocks, right? It can be as simple as a PowerShell script and as elaborate as a fully fledged cloud app with containers to handle scale and whatever else you want. So that really depends all on your needs, how you want to, like what kind of needs you've got, what is it that you need to handle, and how much content you've got to import, and also how often it's going to refresh, right? So you can make it as small and as big as you like. Now, today we want to talk to you about the concept of how can you package a connector as a Teams app to make it easier for admins in your environment to manage and deploy it, right? Because if you think about it, a connector is just a piece of code. So, and if you run that code in a cloud, who's going to start it and who's going to do the initial thing of creating a connection and authenticating that in production? You're not going to press F5 in production, right? So ideally there would be some kind of UI, but do you need to build it by yourself? Well, you could, but do you need to? No, you don't, because you also have this other ability where you package a connector as a Teams app, and that basically means that your connector is going to appear in the Teams admin center as an app. Right? And you will see that in action in a bit, right? When it's there, you will get additional option to control whether the connector is enabled or not. And that trigger, you handle that in your code, right? So you deploy the package to TAC. From TAC, you get the option, or the admin gets an option to enable, disable it. And that basically sends a trigger to your code, which you handle accordingly. So in other words, if the admin chose to enable the connector in the tenant, you will get a webhook of that, and you get basically instructions to, okay, start creating the connection and start the initial ingestions of the items from external source to Microsoft 365. When the admin turns off the connector, that's again signal to you to delete the connection and basically clean everything up. So that's something that you handle in your code. And it's not much, but there's a bit of code you need to add. But the benefit is that you don't need to build a UI and you don't need to introduce new concept to admins. They can basically use whatever knowledge and skills and experience and locations they already have to manage your connector too. So that is really a great way that if you build a connector for your org, you should definitely keep in mind as an option and think about it. Also think about that end-to-end experience, not only about how the connector works and how it's going to work ongoing, but also how do you expose it to admins so that they can control and operate it. With that theory part, how about we see it in action? And that is also a cue to Garry, who's going to walk you through the process of building and showing in the different parts of how do you build a connector that is exposed as a Teams app.
Thank you very much, Waldek. Hopefully everyone can hear me. So I'm going to go through basically a sample project that we have that shows how to use Teams Toolkit as well, to simplify a lot of the elements that Waldek had talked about, so that you can enable admins to go into the admin center and to basically have this enable and disable toggle approach for the connections. And just to show you what that looks like, it looks like this. It's not exactly the most exciting thing in the world, but effectively by configuring your Graph connector as a Teams app, you have this toggle where you can turn the connection on and off. And obviously, to get that to work, there's a number of things that you need. So if I go back to code, the very first thing that we need is we need our Teams app. So here we've got an app manifest file. So this app manifest file contains the information that will enable that button to be rendered. So it has information, the web application info information, and the graph connector notification URL as well. So one thing to note is when you're creating a graph connector as a Teams app, you must be using manifest version 1.13 or higher. This is using 1.16, so we're absolutely covered there. So that's just something to note. So I talked about the web application info object. So this refers to a Microsoft Entra app registration, which is used to authenticate the connector, our code, with Microsoft Graph. And the notification URL as well. So this notification URL basically represents the endpoint that when the admin, either enables or disables, there's going to be a notification sent to this endpoint that will then, your code will run and then handle whether it needs to create or whether it needs to delete a connection or update. So the way that we can automate all of this is by using Teams Toolkit and using the F5 process in Teams Toolkit. So we can take this manifest and we can basically go through all of the process to package the manifest into an app package, upload that into the admin center, create the app registration, start all the different processes that you would need for this to work. So let's take a look at how Teams Toolkit does that. So the way that you would start this is you would just press F5, you'd start a debug session. And by clicking F5, it kicks off a configuration. So this is a VS Code file. This is a compound configuration, which refers to the debug profile here. Exactly the same thing. This essentially starts our Azure function. So our Azure function is going to act as our local code logic. This is going to be our endpoint where there's a request going to come through from Microsoft Graph. So it's going to start all of those tasks, and it's going to enable the attached process as well. So we're in VS Code. We can put breakpoints in our code as requests come through. We can inspect that using the standard tools that you have. Now, one of the next things that happens is once everything's been set up, there's a setup task called TTK that runs, and this has subtasks. So we've got things like npm install, ensuring files are created, all the things that we need, so that when we hit that button, or the admin hits the button, that everything's in place. The request will be able to be handled, and we'll be able to send requests back. So one of our first tasks here is to ensure that a dev tunnel is running. So our endpoint is local, and because obviously we're interacting with a cloud service, we need to expose this to the internet. So we have a script here which uses the dev tunnel CLI, and what this makes sure is there's a tunnel that is created that we can use as our notification URL. If it doesn't exist, it'll go and create it, and next time we want to run it, it'll just use the same dev tunnel. We won't get a dev tunnel different every single time. We've also got a task that runs that ensures some environment files as well. So we've got lots of variables here that we need to keep hold of, like the app registration IDs, secrets, all those kind of things. So we have a script that just updates some default values in that file. We've also got Azure AI emulator in here as well. So we're using table and queue storage as well. So we're using queues for handling messages. We've got long running operations here. So we want to make sure that we can retry every so often as well, and make sure that it's resilient. We also want to store some of our data as well that we're actually going to ingest into Microsoft 365. So we use the Azure AI emulator there, and that's going to spin up when we press F5. And then the final task in here is we've then got a task that's going to execute a provision stage in one of the YAML files that you get in Teams Toolkits. This YAML file is a project file, and essentially what it's there to do is to automate Microsoft 365 development tasks. So you can add in here things like custom scripts, which we've added. So we have a script in here to say, hey, make sure we've got data in our tables that we're going to ingest into Microsoft 365. So we can just run a quick node script there. We've got then utility script, which is quite nice, that every time we hit F5, we're going to update the app manifest version. And this is important because if we're developing and you want to retry things, if you just keep the same version, you're going to get conflicts when you try and upload that to the admin center. So we just handle that every F5. We just simply go in and update the version. The next step, so crucial, you need a Microsoft Entra app registration for your Graph Connector to work. So we have a task in here that will create that registration and then write out a load of the environment, the output variables to our environment variable so that we can reuse these across our application. And those environment files look like this. So we've got lots of information here, like the notification endpoint that's been created from a dev tunnel URL, lots of the IDs for our app registration, but also secrets as well. So we've got a user file, which when Teams Toolkit sees that, it knows that it's got credentials in there. So it encrypts them as well, which is quite nice. That's where the client secret that you need on your app registration is stored. Now, once we've created that app registration, we need to configure it. So the next task will update this app registration with the contents of this manifest file. And in this manifest file, we have permissions. So you need 2 permissions to create a connection and to actually ingest items. So they need to be on the, so these are app only permissions. So these need to be on the app registration. And also you need to configure an application ID URI as well. And that goes into the app manifest. So that kind of links the Teams app to the Microsoft Entra app registration as well. Once all that's done, we're doing things in Microsoft Entra, we actually then need to create the app package as well. So there's a task to take that manifest file, create the app package. And in here, we can see that this is an output version. We've not got any placeholders in here. These are what the actual real values would be. So we get an output of that so we can inspect it. And then our second to last task in here is our Azure function code needs to understand, okay, what are the environment variables that have been generated, the client IDs, client secrets. So we have a task here to update the local settings.json file, which then our Azure function can use these values at runtime. And then finally, we publish the app package to the Teams admin portal. That essentially uploads the app part of the Graph Connector. It doesn't publish it though, so there is a manual task that you need to go in there and just click the publish button. But once you've done that, once you've done that and the admin then has enabled that toggle, gone through permissions as well to confirm that they're all consented to, this function here, this notification endpoint, will receive a request which will be responsible for enabling or disabling the connection. And what this does is it returns a 202 accepted as soon as it's hit. There's if you don't get a reply or you don't reply in 30 seconds, then the retries that happen can take a lot longer. So we issue return the 202 straight away. And we have a bit of an example here of the information that comes in the request body. So important things to state here are we have a state value, a connector's ticket value, and a validation token as well. So this is on the incoming request. So this is what this code does. So once we've sent the 202, we've got some code that's going to validate the authenticity of the incoming notification. So make sure it's a real one. And then it's going to create a message that we're going to put on a queue to either create or disable this connection. And then we're going to handle, so we're going to add that to the queue, and then we're going to basically issue a request to create the connection. So quickly to go through the validation of the token. So we actually validate this against Microsoft Entra as well, just to make sure, yes, this is correct and we should be processing this. We then create this message. So this is a message that we've just created in our application. But the most important thing here is that we've actually got the connector ticket and the connector ID, because we need to send the connector ticket that we receive in the incoming request back in the request to Microsoft Graph to say, yes, I want you to create a connection. And then we transform this into a base64 string and add it to the queue. Once the message is added to the queue, we have a function here that it's executed, and then we can say, okay, is it create, is it delete, and then go down the appropriate logic. For this, we want to do a create, and we have a function here which sends a request to Microsoft Graph to create the connection. And the important thing here is the connector ticket, like I mentioned. So you send the connector ticket that came in the incoming request back out essentially in a graph connectors ticket header, which will create the connection. Once you've got the connection, then you can create the schema, then you can actually start to ingest data, and that's where the next step of the logic in this app comes. But hopefully you can see there's a lot of moving parts in this, and Teams Toolkit basically makes this a much simpler way of developing your graph connectors and having that simplified Teams admin center experience as well. And with that, I'll hand it back.
Perfect. So as we are over time, let me do a quick recap, share a few links, and then we'll be over to the next person in queue, right? So what you've just seen is how you package a graph connector as a Teams app. And you've seen that, yes, there are a few things you need to take into account, but you also seen that Teams Toolkit allows you to automate all of that. So all you need to do is to press F5 and it just works. So with that, we will share the links to the additional docs on this, samples, so that you can explore it on your own. And if there is anything, do reach out to us. With that, thank you, and over to you, Vesa, for the next speaker.
Excellent. Thank you, Waldek. Really, really cool and great implementation or usage on the code tour. That's great for demos as well. Awesome work over there. Now, without further ado, let's not waste any time. We are not too much behind of the schedule, so let's jump on Akanksha Rakesh to talking about the billing experiences with SharePoint Embedded. And we can see the slides, and hopefully we'll get the audio as well.
Can you hear me?
Yes, there's the audio.
Awesome.
Excellent. We can hear you. Take it away.
Hello, everyone. My name is Akanksha Rakesh, and I'm a product manager at Microsoft. And today is another installment in the series that we are doing to introduce SharePoint Embedded that is currently in public preview. In this talk, I'm going to go a little bit into how billing works for SharePoint Embedded, what are the billing meters, and different billing models that the product supports. I'll first take you through some concepts in the presentation and then dive deep into the demo to set up a billable SharePoint Embedded application. With that, I'll get right into it. If you haven't yet come across SharePoint Embedded, let me just take some time to do a quick recap. SharePoint Embedded is an API-only headless version of SharePoint for your custom applications. SharePoint Embedded creates a dedicated partitioning within your M365 tenant to store files and documents. And because of that, you get a lot of features and capabilities that come with M365, such as content management, security and compliance, file experiences in your app. Everything is Content AI ready and is all powered by Microsoft Graph API. Now let's do a quick review of some of the tools and concepts that will help understand billing for SharePoint Embedded. We will start with a tenant where the development of the SharePoint Embedded application happens. This tenant is a developer tenant, and it could be owned by an ISV who wants to build an app to sell to the customers, or an organization that just wants to build a line of business app. To set up a billable SharePoint embedded application, the developer admin in this developer tenant will create a billing profile, which consists of a subscription and resource group in Azure portal. This capability of creating subscription and resource group is already present in Azure portal and is very familiar to folks who work with Azure a lot. Subscription is what is usually associated with a credit card, and resource group is just a logical grouping for all the Azure resources. Now the developer admin will create a multi-tenant SharePoint embedded application in Microsoft Entra that will allow the app to be served to multiple customers using a single instance of the app. With the subscription, resource group, and app created, the developer admin can now create a SharePoint embedded container type. What is a container type? It has mainly two roles. When the customer uses this SharePoint embedded apps and creates containers to store contents like files and videos and documents, these containers are associated with this container type. And the container type links these containers to the Azure subscription that I just talked about. It also associates containers with the Microsoft Entra application. A container type can be owned by only one application. Now that the container type is created, it's ready to be registered to the consuming tenants of the users on the tenants where the users are going to use this application. The users of these tenants can now create containers and store content in the containers. Now that we talked about who is creating the app and the consuming tenant that is using the app, let's talk about billing. SharePoint Embedded is a pay-as-you-go consumption-based billing product. That is, you pay for what you use. It is outside of the M365 entitlement. And as we just saw, it integrates with the existing Azure billing portal for cost and invoice management. And the existing Azure billing portal already comes with a lot of management tooling. The portal provides extensive tools in place and granular controls by application or container type or tenants or regions to help you manage and understand the cost more efficiently. So what does consumption comprise of? The consumption is based on 3 meters for SharePoint Embedded. Storage, that is how much data in GB you store in the SharePoint Embedded application. Graph API transactions, and the data that is egressed while using these SharePoint Embedded application. So we talked about how and what is built. Now let's talk about who is built. I'll talk about the 2 models that we have going. As of today, we have a ISV or developer billing model. This is where the organization that is building the SharePoint Embedded application and the container type, again, could be an ISV building an app for customers or a line of business or an organization building line of business app. Here, that tenant, the tenant building the application, gets the invoices from Microsoft based on the usage of the application and manages the costs and payments in the Azure portal. But we've heard from a lot of customers that they want flexibility. To support that, we are also working on a second billing model where the customer who is using the SharePoint Embedded application is the one that manages the cost and invoicing and pays for their usage in Azure portal. This model will be available very soon. With that, let me demo the current developer or ISV-led billing model, where a dev admin can set up a billable SPE app and can see the costs in the Azure billing portal. As I had just mentioned that before creating a SharePoint Embedded container type, the developer admin, which is the role I'm playing currently, who wants to develop the app, will set up a subscription and resource group. So I am in Azure billing portal currently. I already have subscription created. And if you're aware of this portal, you can create new subscriptions using the add functionality in this subscription page. This subscription is already associated with my credit card.
Akanksha, sorry to interrupt you. Can I zoom in a bit? It's really, really small for
absolutely.
next time. Thank you. Brilliant.
Is it better?
Yeah, much better.
Thank you. Awesome. So I also have resource group created here. I have 2 right now that are associated with my Contoso prod subscription I just showed. I will use prod resources for this demo. Again, you can create new resources using the create feature here for resource group. This resource group is created in the location East US. This is just for the resource group itself. It has nothing to do with where your SharePoint embedded application itself is created. Once I have the subscription and resource group, I'm going to go into the Entra, Microsoft Entra, and I'll show you the app that I have created. This is the SharePoint Embedded app I want to use and associate my container type to. I have already created a multi-tenant app called Contoso Audit Pro, and I have the application ID right here. But if you do not have an app, you can create an app registration here using the new registration and create a multi-tenant app using this process. Let's go back to now creating a container type that can be built to the developing tenant. For that, I will use my SharePoint PowerShell. I have updated the latest version of SharePoint PowerShell here, and let's make sure that I am still connected to SharePoint PowerShell. So I will log in as the admin to the tenant where I want to create the container type for the application. I'm logging in as an admin, and this is a SharePoint admin, or you can also log in as a global administrator. Now, to create a new container type, the PowerShell commandlet that you will use is new SPO container type. This commandlet will create a new container type with container type name. I will just give it as Contoso Audit. And this is where now I'm associating my container type with the app ID. So it's asking me the owning application ID I want to associate with. Let me quickly grab the application ID that I had just created here. The next thing it will ask me is for Azure subscription ID. So you see how it's linking the container type, the application ID with Azure subscription ID. So I'm going to go to the Azure subscription ID here and grab this as well. And the next thing it will ask me is for resource group. I had prod resources. I will just make sure that is the correct one. Yeah, the prod resources. And I'll use the same location. Region as East US. Again, this is just the region for where the resources are created and not where your containers or files will be located within the SharePoint Embedded app. I will say yes to creating or performing this action. And this will create a new billable container type, which can now be registered in the consuming tenants for the customers to use and start creating containers and start loading and uploading files, sharing and performing all the actions that they want. I just want to make sure that this container type is present, and if there are any other container types that exist in my tenant that I may have created, using the get SPO container type, and you will see all the container types that exist or that the developer tenant, the tenant that is creating the app, has created. You will notice, as I had mentioned, that one application can have one container type. So all these 3 different container types are associated with 3 different applications. Since these are brand new container types, I do not have usage reports, but let me take you through Azure Billing Portal to quickly see what the usage report looks like for a container type. I am back in the Azure portal. I will now go to cost management. This is a billing profile that I already had created, and we had some usage going on here. I will go to cost analysis. And let's see what the cost looks like for my last 7 days of usage. So here, you can see the cost for this particular subscription, which has a SharePoint embedded billable app associated with it. I'll add some filters. As I had said, this provides capability to drill down by app ID. So I can see by the 3 different app IDs that I had created, or container type ID, or the tenant ID. It's really useful for an app that is being used on different tenants by the consuming users. So for here, just for an example, I will use the container type ID that I had created through PowerShell. And you can drill down into the actual and forecasted cost using this tool right here. Further drills, again, available through service name. You can also go through and check by meter. So you can set up how you want to see your cost, the consumption of your application here. I have also set a budget here for this billing profile, named it Budget Frugal, and made sure that I'm getting notified whenever my budget is crossed, so that it helps me better manage my SharePoint embedded application. So you'll notice, if you know this this tool, that SharePoint Embedded has integrated with Azure Portal seamlessly and used all the capabilities that the Azure Billing Portal provides, and provides more granular control over your cost and billing management. With that, if you are ready to try and you create a billable container type, we have a lot of documentation present online, and you can also start using our VS Code extension to create containers. Thank you, everyone.
Excellent. Thank you, Akanksha. That one really, really awesome stuff, and great storytelling and walking through the capabilities. Awesome video. That works really, really well. Thank you for that. Now, the final, but definitely not the least, we have Carter on the line. Now, if we go a few minutes long, it's okay. If people need to drop from the next meeting, it's okay. Hopefully, Carter, don't rush. You want to do a proper demo, because we're going to isolate this one as the isolated demo afterwards as well. But we can see the slide. How's the audio?
All right. Yeah. Can everyone can hear me and see the slide?
Yep. All good. Carter, take it away.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Hello, everyone. So right now I'm here, Carter Gilliam from the Teams platform, and I'm here to talk everything about custom copilots and how you can build it on Teams with the Teams AI library. So we're going to start out, again, diving into custom copilots, how you can build your own, and specifically how the Teams AI library can accelerate your pro code AI development for those custom copilots in Teams. I'll go through a demo using GPT Vision for Card Gazer. That'll be fun. And then I'll end with how you can get started and how you can contact me for more questions along the way. So just to get everyone on the same page on what we're about, we have Copilot is Microsoft's flagship AI, which is fantastic at utilizing natural language and advanced reasoning to do SWOT analysis, create images. It has a broad range of capabilities that I'm sure many of you are aware of. But what I think is even more impressive are the underlying building blocks that create Copilot can do so much more. And that's where custom copilots come in. Where at Microsoft, we are democratizing this technology so that you can build your own copilots to have specialized capabilities specific for your app or your company, and utilizing all the same underlying technologies that Microsoft Copilot has, but for your own use case. And users are coming to expect a lot of these natural language experiences. So we're here to really help you out and thrive in this new era of AI. And let's go ahead. And so how can you go ahead and build your custom Copilot right now? There's two main options where you have Microsoft Copilot Studio on the right-hand side of the slide, where it's a low-code and a graphical development environment for building custom copilots. And you might remember Power Virtual Agents. This will help upgrade those to custom copilots. But I'm here to talk about the other option, which is for pro code developers, where you can develop custom copilots in your pro code environment in Visual Studio Code or Visual Studio using the Teams AI library for utilizing the Teams UX for your chat experiences, and then a platform like Azure OpenAI for the GPT models that power those AI experiences. So this option has a team-centric focus and capabilities where you can utilize message extensions, adaptive cards, everything that Teams has to offer, and ease in that transition to reach all of your Teams users. If you're familiar with the bot framework and have an existing Teams app, so this can also help upgrade your app with AI. And one of my favorite things about it is that all that's required is a Teams license for your users to use what you build, and it's based off of pay-as-you-go consumption model. So it's just the amount you use for those models from Azure OpenAI or the services you get charged for. So let's dive in a little bit more into how it works. Like I was saying, all you have to do, get a model from Azure OpenAI, plug it in with the Teams AI library software development kit, and then you do a little bit of prompt engineering where you just type out what you want the model to do, and then it transforms that into natural language processing akin to a custom chat GPT like experience where you can add in also moderation to make sure the flow of the conversation is on track and protected for what you want. We have a planning engine that guides the conversation and will extract the intent of the user to then map it to actions, all in natural language. And then you can add your data with retrieval augmentation generation to any of the prompts to get specific responses directly to related to your data. And what does that all look like when you put together? I have ChefBot here, and about the Teams AI library. And so ChefBot is one of the samples that we have with the Teams AI library, and he's connected to all of our getting started data. So he's a product expert on the Teams AI library. And right here, he's able to give us the top 3 things about the Teams AI library, talking about building apps in Microsoft 365 applications with the bot framework, JavaScript, TypeScript support, as well as AI capabilities with large language models. So that's a pretty good answer, and you could build the exact same thing with the Teams AI library, and we'll dive into that in just a moment. But it's beyond having conversational chat. You can also have we've had customers link it to be a financial expert. So you have a lot of proprietary data. You can do multifaceted analysis where it puts together multiple different data sources to do instant analysis and processing for advanced reasoning and analysis of all that information at once. And special to Teams, you can control the stage. I know David did a call a couple months back where he created a 3D world in Teams with the Teams AI library and connected to open source products. And then if you also have OpenAI assistants already on Teams, you can bring your intelligent assistants from OpenAI into Teams easily and reach 320 plus million users that we have in chats, channels, and meetings. So it's pro code, pro customization, pro opportunities. The doors are open for you. And so that leads into a quick demo that I'll go ahead and bring up here with the Card Gazer. And so the Card Gazer does AI vision support and turns images into a code for adaptive card. And let's go ahead and dive into it. So right now I am in Visual Studio Code. I have the Teams Toolkit installed. I'm logged in with side loading enabled, and I've already linked up to the Teams AI repository with all of the samples. And at the end, I'll show you the Getting Started guide where you can easily do the same to get all set up. But once you have the samples open, and this one, the Card Gazer sample, all you have to do is you just rename the sample.env file to env, and then you get an OpenAI key and just plug that in. And then you can just change the prompt that you're working with. So right here, this is the prompt file. And so this commands what the GPT will do in Teams. And right here with the sample, it's already loaded with saying it's a friendly assistant with vision support. And then once you have the models going, you just press F5, and then the Teams Toolkit takes care of locally loading everything for you, and we'll load the sample right up so we can test it out. And all right, so it's coming up, and just wait one moment. So, all right, here we go. Now we are loading up Teams. And just takes a moment for the side loading. And so now you're in Teams, you can go ahead and, of course, like I was saying, you can add it to a chat, team, or a meeting. We'll just go ahead and add it to a one-on-one chat here. And let's see how it loads up. And here is the Card Gazer. So we're back in Teams, and we can go ahead and interact, say hello. And then just give it a moment. So, all right, comes back, says that can help us with adaptive cards. And so I've already found an adaptive card that I want to get the code for. Oh, sorry. Set in, and then a second. So show me the code for the adaptive card. Send that off. And so for advanced tasks like this, where it is using GPT-4 vision, looking at the image of that adaptive card, and then searching the code base, looking for what code will recreate this same adaptive card. Now, for simple conversations, it'll respond quick. For something like this, it might take a moment. And then you could see here when we go back into the Teams tool VS Code, you can see that in the terminal, it's thinking through the responses, and it says that the JSON had errors, and that's okay because the Teams AI library has advanced reasoning to go and try and work through and repair some of these things for doing advanced tasks like creating code. And so then it'll keep going through and then hopefully find an answer for us for a moment. And while that's going on, I'll dive into beyond the prompts, how it's linking is we have actions right here where you can see the send adaptive card to user, as well as showing the user the JSON for the adaptive card. So it's easy to set up these actions and then link it, and then it looks like the response is already back in Teams and ready. And then we can see that CardGazer has created the code for the adaptive card. All right, awesome. Now we can go ahead and just say, send me the adaptive card. So let's go ahead and see what the adaptive card looks like and see what it matches. So now that's created all the code already, I think we'll be a little bit faster on this end. So we'll just wait a second. All right, and here we go. That looks pretty similar. We even have the options of 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and you can click I'll be late, so you can link that to the back end of your app. And so that's a pretty advanced task with the Teams AI library. And we'll just dive in one more section just to show all the different components the Teams AI library is building for you when you utilize it. So you can have, this is where you can have your AI components where it lists and you can change the GPT models. Here we have GPT-4 Vision listed. We also have planners, attachment loaders, and a lot of this is already built in. And what you have to do, add in the prompt, add in your custom actions, and then just select the model that you want, as well as the code, and then you are good to run. And so that is the CardGazer model, and then you can go ahead and start building your own custom Copilots today with the Teams AI library. We already have JS and C# available, with Python coming soon. We have tons of different samples to help you build whatever app you're interested in building. And again, only a Teams license is needed to build and use. When you have the large language models, though, that you can get from Azure OpenAI or OpenAI, and you can build new or upgrade your app. And you can go ahead and get started with the go into the aka.ms Teams AI library for the Learn documentation, which also has a quick start guide to walk you through everything that you just saw today, and then get and download all the samples to help you get started creating your own apps, as well as the GitHub link is right down below. And I'm Carter, and then my LinkedIn's right at the bottom. So feel free to contact me with any questions, and I am incredibly excited to see what you all build. And that's it. So I'll hand it over back to Vesa.
Thank you, Carter. Awesome job. Really, really cool. And great to see the excitement in the chat as well. So really, really cool. And so thank you, Garry. Thank you, Waldek. Thank you, Akanksha. Thank you, Carter. We do apologize. We went a few minutes long today. So for those who are watching this later on, we are a bit late, but it's okay. Not too bad. We didn't want to really stop too early either, so we got a full demo from Carter as well. Now, next Tuesday, we have again 3 demos. We'll try to be faster on the intro, so we don't have any challenges there. We'll start with Bob, who's going to talk about, again, on Microsoft 365 Copilot, advanced plugins, consideration case Northwind. So he continues that Northwind storytelling, which we saw a few weeks back. Mark Windel is back around SharePoint embedded scenarios together with Fluid. So building real-time collaborative apps with Fluid, Microsoft Fluid on SharePoint Embedded. And then Rasha Ahmed Sayad should be here around creating a Microsoft Teams healthcare application as part of the Microsoft Teams hackathon projects from last year. Really, really looking forward on that one as well. Yeah. In the meantime, you might be joining on our Discord server, and this is getting to be really, really popular. We're seeing 1,800 getting broken here within this week. So clearly people are familiar with the Discord and they want to actually spend time in Discord. So we wanted to be there as well. If you want to have a location to have questions from other people within a community, this is a great location to get in. AKMS Community Discord, and you'll get in there. We're always looking for feedback around these calls. So please, if you have a few minutes, please let us know your input. This is super important for us, so we're able to also keep on doing these calls within the future. So are these valuable? If they are, let us know. That would be really cool. Now, the recording will be available within 24 hours at the Microsoft 365 Power Platform Community YouTube channel at AKMS Community Videos. subscribe that channel today. We are releasing new videos every single day on that channel across the different areas on Microsoft 365 and Power Platform, including all of these community calls. Follow us on Twitter, LinkedIn, all of that stuff. You stay up to date on what's happening, and all of the calls at AKMS community calls. But that's it for today. Thank you one more time for all of the presenters, and thank you for lovely discussion in the chat. And let's stay in touch. Thanks, everybody. Have a great rest of the week. Bye-bye.